Welcome to Fresh Catholic, a podcast for those who are converting, reverting, or simply want a fresh perspective of the Catholic faith to help them to open their hearts and minds to become closer to the love and goodness of Christ. My daily prayer is that I will be a bright light to others, to be filled with the love and light of Christ, so that when people look at me, they see Him radiating out from me for His glory. Hello and welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. Well, summer is in full swing. We hope you are having a super great time relaxing, going to the beach, lake, pool, or spending time traveling on vacation. Or maybe you're just hanging out inside with the air conditioner on. I don't know. It all sounds amazing to me. I hope whatever you're doing, that you are making time for Fresh Catholic podcasts. We now have 79 main episodes to catch up on. Oh my goodness. If you haven't started, you should get going on it. We also have Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily Mass readings. So you can tune into those every day. They're roughly 5 to 7 minutes, and what a great way to start your day. You can listen on most platforms, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those. And we also have a YouTube channel. If you can't access those, head over to our website, freshcatholic.com, and have a listen there. Our website, freshcatholic.com, has so much to check out. Go have a look. We have our own Fresh Catholic comics, a blog, a faith-based online store with exclusive Fresh Catholic merch designed by my husband, Simon. You can't get it anywhere else. You can only get it there. We also have our own brand of Fresh Catholic coffee, roasted and shipped the same day. Iced coffee, anyone? Please consider helping us financially by becoming a Patreon, sponsor, or donor. Your financial support will help us to continue our ministry of bringing people to Christ and back to the church. Anything is appreciated. Also at our website, freshcatholic.com, we have collaborated with educator Charles Merritt for Fresh Catholic courses. The series we have available so far are Pivotal Prayers, where Charles explores and teaches about two foundational Catholic prayers, the Hail Mary and the Our Father. He explains and teaches why we pray these prayers and what they mean. The next series on sin is now available, and there's also an incredible free downloadable book that expands on his lessons. If you would like to purchase a hardcover version of this book, head to our website to order. It has lots of very cool artwork to complement Charles' lessons. It's really something. Check it out. He and Simon collaborated on it together. Charles also has an ongoing series / Bible study on the Gospel of Mark. As always, please share the Fresh Catholic podcasts and Fresh Catholic courses with your friends. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Catholic to see short videos every day. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review on all of the above. Thank you so much. And now, welcome, Simon Balderas. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Lori.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm nice, hot, and sweaty here.
Ew.
And working in the sun.
Well, it is summertime.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a little frustrated with this subject today. I don't know if I'm frustrated with the subject, but this is going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, I know. And I know that you've been struggling. We've had several conversations about it, and you've walked away in frustration. And it's just been hard for me to wrap my head around it, only because I think it's such a big subject, and it really does apply to a lot of different things.
It does. So what I want to talk about today is persecution, when people are persecuted for their beliefs.
Right.
And this subject, has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years, persecution, especially with our beloved Jesus, who was so persecuted. So I'm just hoping that I can get my point across in this episode. I have a reason why I want to do the episode, and that is that I think persecution has always been going on, but nowadays it's happening, I feel like, in a different way. I feel like back in the day when Jesus was being persecuted, it was for really intense things.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I think people are persecuted for petty things. And I think people today don't even know what they're persecuting people for or attacking people for. They don't have knowledge of the person, really. Like this is, when I talk today, it's going to be very general. And it's going to be, again, I'm back to this, those people and us. And I don't know how else to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think I understand what you're saying and what you're trying to put your finger on. And to me, what you're saying, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is back in the day when Jesus was persecuted himself, he was persecuted by primarily one group, and it was his group. It was the Jewish people of the day and the Romans.
Right.
Two groups, mostly his own people. They wanted to eliminate him.
Right.
Nowadays, there's so many groups, and they're all on your face. They're all on social media. They're all on television. They're on billboards.
They're in protests.
They're on the radio. Right. So you just kind of see it everywhere, and the target is moving constantly.
Right. And I feel like, again, there was specific reasons that Jesus was targeted, and it was like very specific. And nowadays, as we all know, we're in this woke culture. So if you don't agree with somebody, they immediately attack you. They bring in all their friends. They bring in people that aren't even friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big mob gang mentality, and they attack and they devour, and they're not even really understanding what the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's like if you drop something in the water and a bunch of fish attack it. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Okay.
Like when you throw in something in the ocean and there's a feeding frenzy, you know. So I'm just kind of perplexed by the whole thing, because I do believe when you have an issue with something or a problem with something, if you want to address it, that's one thing. But when you just flailing about attacking people for things, or flailing about trying to get your point across, and you're screaming and you're yelling and you're name calling and you're just doing these crazy things, to me that doesn't have any weight to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just, I find it like a very interesting phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think it's interesting that certain groups of people today really want their point across. They will protest, they will yell, they will scream, they will do all these things because they want their way.
Yeah.
And if you don't go with their way, they're going to come after you, they're going to cancel you, they're going to do these things. We've talked about this in other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But they certainly want their voice heard.
Yeah.
And the second you don't agree with them, they will turn on you, start name calling, start attacking. You're misogynistic, you're racist, you're homophobic. And the ultimate one that's being thrown around like crazy is you're a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So they just like start spewing out these names and these labels of people.
Right.
And some of those, I suppose, might be true, but some of them might not be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm called a Nazi for something. Well, I'm not a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a name that's being thrown out. So it's really difficult, I feel, when somebody wants to have a view, somebody wants to have, it's just like this crazy free-for-all that in my opinion, turns into not meaning anything.
Right. Kind of, yeah. I agree with that. And I think I can maybe simplify it a little bit for you, because you're right. They call you all these different names, and it's coming from all these different perspectives and groups. And I think you can really boil it down to two groups: believers and unbelievers. And that's pretty simple, because if you have the mind of Christ, then the answer to how to respond to those things, I know you have really the answer. It's very simple, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's to be Christ-like in every situation, right?
Right. So that's one of the main things I wanted to talk about today, is that I have been really witnessing this. I have been really watching this. One of the reasons is I'm on
when you're on social media, you get on algorithms. You know, the more things you like or the more things you watch, if you even pause on something on social media, you'll end up in an algorithm. So I am now on an algorithm that is really showing things like if somebody is very strong in their faith, because I was very interested in Harrison Butker, the football player, then consequently other sports stars that are being very faithful. They're thanking the Lord when they win a championship. They're praying before an event. So now I'm on that algorithm.
Okay.
And I'm also on other algorithms where people, I mean, who knows how they know this, but, you know, on the algorithms, but it's showing me like people who are just very faithful or people who are very holy. And I love that because that I want to be in that algorithm.
Okay.
Why I'm on the dog food one, I'm not quite sure. But I am on this algorithm and I love it. But it is really like showing me what's out there, what's going on. That's why this is like forefront in my brain. But when you and I started talking about this and we were saying like people have this frenzied attitude, we were then trying to talk about the opposite view, which would be, I think you and I were, or I asked you, well, how do you think Catholics handle things? And what was your answer?
Very quietly.
Very quietly. And it's very true. Now, when we say this on this podcast, this is our experience. So I'm not, going to make a big general statement that all Catholics are like that, but our experience and what I'm seeing is, we'll say most Catholics, when they are approached with hostility or they're approached with persecution, they stay generally quiet.
Right.
They pray. You and I were talking about one of our favorite stories about Mother Teresa. She goes into this bakery. She has a little child, starving child. She asks the shop owner, can we have bread for this child? And what does he do? He spits on her. So she doesn't retaliate. She doesn't lash back. She says, thank you. Now may I have a bread for the child?
Right.
Okay. So I did a little bit of research, and one of the things I found is, why does God allow persecution? Well, he allows it because we're supposed to help us to be more Christ-like. Like we're supposed to remember Jesus. Like imagine Jesus the night of the Last Supper. Judas turns on him. He gets taken in handcuffs and he's, they're coming after him. What does he do? The first thing he did was he defended himself initially in his trial, but not to protest his suffering. He wanted to have testimony to his innocence, but then he remained silent throughout the rest of the trial. Okay. So, it wasn't like he was trying to fight back or anything. And again, go watch Passion of the Christ. They show this really well, that it shows him, he's being spit on, he's being beaten up, all these things. He does have a moment where he's speaking to Pontius Pilate, because Pontius Pilate is asking him questions, saying trying to have him save himself.
Right.
But he, for the most part, he stayed silent. We're supposed to not retaliate. We're supposed to not lash back. We're not supposed to lower ourselves, to push back on this. But we do, I think as a whole, the Catholic people do stay silent. They pray. There's many quotes that Jesus has in the Bible, which I looked up, which I thought were really interesting about persecution. And I mean, obviously, he's our best guide. And so let me just tell you what Jesus had to say. Blessed are those who are persecuted for their righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. And Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. So all those are obviously very important. He would know better than anybody in the history of the world. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be following what Jesus did, what Jesus would want us to do. And this is one reason God allows persecution, is we're supposed to handle it like Jesus.
Right. And that's a really big challenge. I mean, if somebody's, going for you and going down your throat, it's hard to remain humble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really hard to not push back. It takes a lot to do that. But I feel like that's one of the reasons they do that, is they want you to cave. They want you to lower yourself. That's what, it's like, they poke and poke and poke, and they want you to launch.
Right. And I know we're talking about these, kind of life or death, big deals, Jesus, being questioned before he's crucified and so forth. But I kind of want to understand a little bit more as to, when I say Catholics are quiet, just like, for example, imagine going to a weekend barbecue with a bunch of friends and family and people, maybe some people that you don't know. And all of a sudden there's this kind of hot discussion that breaks out, and they're talking about something that's really against your faith, like abortion, and why they need to support abortion and all this kind of stuff. If you're there and you're a Catholic, I think you don't want to really, at least I wouldn't want to jump in on that conversation. I'd be afraid.
Right.
In a lot of ways. So what I do is, my reaction is to just quietly pray.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I personally feel, in using that example, like if we were go to a barbecue and they start talking about some hot topic, I would think most Catholics would do that. Stay silent, pray, possibly, if it got too hot, possibly even leave. I don't know that I look at that as like a cowardly way to handle it. I look at that as a way of, I would probably use that moment to listen to what they were all talking about. If they then turned the conversation to me and said, well, you're Catholic, what's your opinion on it? Then I would probably answer the question in a calm way, but not go nose to nose with them.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to get complicated. I mean, you could simply say, well, you recognize me as a Catholic, and I'm not just part Catholic. I'm Catholic through and through, and I believe in the church and what their position is, and just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if pursued even more, I think you could have an answer, and if they pursue you, that's just your answer.
Right.
Like, I think I gave you an example where if somebody said, oh, you Catholics, you're against abortion. Yes. Yep. Yes, we are. Well, why? Why are you against abortion? Don't you believe in a woman's right to choose? No, I don't believe in killing babies. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in killing people.
Yeah, and then they get mad, and then
they could get mad. But my answer, that's my answer. Mm-hmm. I don't even need to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know. I don't need to negotiate it with them.
Right. And I actually have been in a situation like that. Now that I know you asked me, have you ever been persecuted? And I was like, I don't really think so, not for my faith. But I have said in certain situations, is it okay if I have an opinion about this that's not like yours?
And what was their answer?
It shuts them up.
It does.
Yeah. There's no answer. Of course you can have an opinion. This is free speech. This is America.
Right.
That's what,
Well, and I think, again, if you say it in that way, where you have this answer, it's not you saying, let's go for it. I want to go toe to toe with you. We're going to have it out. I want to be right and you want to be right. We're just going to fight to the finish. If we as Catholics don't have that attitude,
right,
it should stop them in their tracks. Because again, this isn't just our opinion. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it.
Right.
This isn't just our opinion.
Right.
I'm not political. What I am is I'm a very devout Catholic. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to go with the teachings of the church and the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so if somebody, again, if we're in a situation, I'm not just going to dive in the brawl. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to pray. And then if pressed, I have an answer. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go, oh, well, I don't know. Depends on the situation. I would never say that.
Right.
I would answer their question. And then if they don't like my answer, I would say, that's my answer. And if they keep pressing me, I'll say, you keep asking me, but that's my answer.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because I know you're like that, not just because you're Catholic, but you are just like that. I know you've told me stories about when your kids have come to you and asked you hard questions, they know they're going to get a real answer. That's really ingrained in you.
Yeah.
Which is so you fit right in there.
Well, I don't think it's good to be wishy-washy. And I think it's better, like, let's say you don't have an answer, okay? You really legitimately don't have an answer. I think it's better to say, I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that. But if it's something you know the answer to, but you feel like you can't answer because somebody's going to beat you up about it, I think you should have your answer. And I think you should go ahead and say the answer and be firm in it. And it doesn't need to be a dialogue. It doesn't need to be a big event. It doesn't need to be the start of a fight. It needs to be, if somebody presses you, have an answer. And then if they pursue it, say, well, that's my answer.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask me the question if you don't want the answer, because that's my answer. And I don't want to fight with you, but that's my answer.
Right.
And then move on. And then if they keep coming at you, I think it would be just smart to say, I can see this is going nowhere, and this is not why I came to this event. So I'm going to peacefully leave. And I don't think there's any shame in that. Because I think that some people want to pick a fight. They want to cause a problem.
Yeah.
They want to come to the point where they can call you a Nazi.
Right.
And I'm not going to fall for that.
Yeah.
I've had this with my own son where he has challenged me. And I've said to him, I love you. I don't want to be having an argument about this, but I choose Christ. You're making me pick, and I choose Christ. But I love you, and I'm here.
Yeah.
Whenever you would like to come to me, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not rejecting you.
Yeah.
You're rejecting me and putting me in a position where I'm going to choose Christ and his teaching.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So when you're in that situation, and I know, and I've seen it and heard it, when somebody is really coming at you and they know you really well, so they know what buttons to push and what all your pain points are and really how to get under your skin, right? How do you bite your tongue?
Well, it's very new to me to not smack back. It's really new to me.
Yeah.
Because I think before I was Catholic, or even when I was a new, more fresh Catholic than I am now, there was a lot of moments in my life where I would cave and just cater to people. Being a people pleaser, I would just cater to them. And then I went through a phase where I was very combative. So I would just punch back. I wouldn't push back. I'd just punch back, and then it would be a power struggle. And now more and more, I am feeling more secure in my faith. I do feel like I have a shield and that strength. And I do look to Jesus as my number one go-to for who I look to. He's my guide. He's everything to me. And really, honestly, especially in the past year with a lot of the turmoil you and I are going through with outside interferences that's happening, I'm more and more picturing that of him the night he died.
Okay.
I use that as such a visual of him just taking it like a champ, man. He just...
Well, let me ask you this. Before, when you would punch back and really have your dukes up, how did that feel as opposed to how you react now? And I know you react now out of love. You try to be real gentle and caring about the person and their heart and soul, and also your faith, and keeping Christ upheld in your life. I know that. So how do you feel now to answer that way, biting your tongue and answering with humility and so forth? Like Mother Teresa being spit in the face and then just wiping it off and with a smile, so now can I have a piece of bread? As opposed to punching back. Did you have relief when you would punch back?
No.
Okay.
No. And that's the thing is, like, again, I used to live that way and I didn't know there was another way. Like, that's how I thought I was supposed to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's how I raised my children.
Mm-hmm.
So now, consequently, that's how they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll just punch right back, you know. And I think that's what, especially my youngest son, that's what really bothers him about me now, is I'm not that old mom. And he liked that mom. He liked that feisty mob mom.
Yeah. Well, you showed some real protection. You were protective.
Very.
And you were like a little warrior.
I was a warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just like, you know, if you came at me, I would just take you down.
Mm-hmm.
I would come right out at you and just take you down.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, I just thought I was doing my job.
Yeah.
I thought that, you know, that was my personality. And I just thought that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I'm weak. Like, I'm very well known for being strong. That's like one of the probably top 5 words that's probably used to describe me. But my strength now is a different strength.
Yeah.
And so like back then, it was more of a outward bulldozer type strength.
Yeah.
And now my strength is from God, from Jesus. And I feel like it's harder. There's more strength in restraint
Mm-hmm.
than there is in actually just bulldozing over people.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, that's the thing, is when you're being attacked, I'm not against defending yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm not saying, like roll over, get kicked and spit on. I'm not saying that. But when Jesus was doing that, if you watch him in the Passion of the Christ and they're spitting on him, I don't see any weakness there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for him. I'm looking at him and he's being beaten up unnecessarily. And it's like, it's really disgusting that his hands are tied, his feet are tied. He's completely pulverized, and they're still doing this stuff to him. They look weak to me.
Yeah.
They're cowards. Mm-hmm. And he's like this, he's a warrior.
Right. So it's an inward strength as opposed to this real, you know, strong exterior, because he looked really weak on the outside.
Yeah.
But on the inside, he had the mind of God.
Yeah.
And the heart of God.
I mean, and also he had the ultimate comeback. You know, it's like, so he goes through all that, and then look who's back, baby. Look who's back. And, you know, I never looked at him and thought he was being weak. I thought they looked weak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about all these people that are attacking people.
Yeah.
They're so weak.
Right. Yeah.
And they think they're strong. But that's what I guess I wanted to do this episode on, is that watching these, there's a handful of people that are in my algorithm that I'm watching, and I'm like so proud of them. And I'm thinking like, wow, you guys are like really staying strong in your faith. They're not feeling the need to punch back. They're not feeling the need to cater to these people. They're not feeling the need to cower. They have that shield. I can feel it. I can see it, that they have the shield of Christ, and they're just very calm. They're very matter of fact about what they're saying, because initially what they said and did wasn't even worth this retaliation and this persecution. So I think that's the thing. You know, when you know you haven't done something wrong, you know you're on the right side of God, you know that you're going by the teachings of God, there's a strength and a peace in that.
Right. Yeah. And I think also people who are cruel to other people in the way that they were cruel to Christ, it's just like a bully is cruel to other people. They're cruel because of their own internal hurts that they have, and this outward thing is just a cover up in some way.
Right. There's this new kid. I wish I would have looked him up. That just triggered a memory in my brain. On my algorithm, there's this kid, and he's going around and he's filming this, and it's like he's coming at everything with love. Okay. So I'm going to say, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I'm going to say he's in his young 20s. Okay. And there will be somebody, like, this is an example. There will be a person standing there, clearly trans, or, you know, and they're pretty wild looking, this particular person.
Okay.
And so he goes up and he's just talking to them in this very kind, loving way,
Right.
and saying, do you have Jesus in your life? He's not saying it in an accusatory way. He's not trying to get a rise out of them. He's coming at them from love.
Okay.
And then ultimately these videos end up where he's giving them a hug. He says, "Can I pray for you?" And they say, okay. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder. Is that okay?" He's not aggressing on them. He's being very kind, and he's coming at them coming in slow, and they're responding to it in a positive way. Like you're saying, these people that are lashing out,
Yeah.
something's really troubling them.
Maybe they just need a hug.
Maybe they need a hug.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds so easy and simple, but I have found, again, when there's a child who's screaming and struggling, if you go over and you say to the child, "What's wrong? What can I do for you?
Yeah.
What do you need?" And if they still scream, say, "I need to understand you. Can you tell me? Can you use your words and tell me?" This goes for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just a child.
Yeah.
When you're
It goes for your enemies. I mean, really, when Christ says, "Love your enemies," and in doing so, you will be heaping hot coals over their head.
Right.
They can't take it almost.
Right. If you come at everybody with love, if they reject that, they reject it. But sometimes you have to try, because when somebody is attacking you, why? Why are they doing that? They have a hurt.
Yeah.
They have a hurt. They have a problem. They have an issue. It's not necessarily you. Like we've talked about before, we have a commercial on Facebook, and I mean, it's now so many comments. I've lost track. I don't even get involved. I'll respond if it's something positive, but these people are going at it. They're not going at it. They're not attacking me necessarily. There's like a handful who've maybe said some mean, nasty comment about me personally, but that's a handful out of over 1,000, things going on there. So they're mad at the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
They're mad at people in the church. And it's more, that's kind of what they're fighting about more.
Yeah.
Is about it's like the Protestants against the Catholics. That's the main thing that's going on. That's the main fight. And my thought when I see that is, but you all love Jesus.
Right.
Why are y'all fighting?
They're fighting over doctrine.
They are. And it's just like, wow. I mean, okay. I mean, I guess if that's what you want to fight about. But ultimately, all that's doing is making Jesus cry. Because he's like, y'all love me. You don't need to fight amongst yourselves. Band together. Be warriors together for the Lord, We have enough trouble with other people that don't even believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, coming at it with the more peaceful, loving way feels a lot better. That's more what I'm interested in now. And then if the people still want to come at me, I'm just praying for them. I'm just going to have to pray for them, because I don't want to go back to the way. I certainly don't want to lower myself and turn into what they're doing. I really don't want to do that. And so that's, my message here today is really, because we are in a world where people just think that they can just say whatever they want about you. And they can label you and scream at you and all these things. And it's just, my advice is try to be very Christ-like. Try to not let it get under your skin. It's not easy. It's not easy to actually be spit on or, figuratively or literally to be spit on, and to be attacked doesn't feel good. But I think, again, I'm getting the sense that the people who are very close to Christ feel like they have that shield, feel like they have that strength, and don't need to do that. It's a much better feeling.
Yeah.
So I agree with what you say, like the reason these people are doing it is they're hurt. They have a bully mentality, and most bullies, they started somewhere. If you look at anybody who, is a bully, or like we not joke about Disney villains. If you look at their backstory, they're a Disney villain because of something bad that happened to them.
Yeah.
And again, this has to do with like choices. People make choices. Choices are made for you that aren't good.
Yeah.
You make your own choices that aren't good.
Yeah.
The fall of Adam and Eve that wasn't good. That caused a big problem for mankind. So I'm encouraged by these people who, like I say, social media. I know you're not into all that social media, but there's some very specific things that are happening lately, like in the past 6 months. And I'm very encouraged by these people because they're actually, when they're doing things on social media or out in the world, they're not doing it to point a finger at somebody and saying, you're not good enough. And I'm going to point this out because you're not good enough. That's not why they're doing these things. I'm speaking about people like Shia LaBeouf. He became Catholic. So, of course, it's just a phase. Oh, he's crazy. He's got a mental problem. It's like, he's not doing it for you all, people. He's doing it because he was called by the Lord and he took that invitation and he became Catholic. Let's let him be happy in that. He's in peace. Why are you attacking him? Why do you feel the need to persecute him? You don't need to do that. Also, Harrison Butker, who we've talked about multiple times. I really suggest, I'm going to encourage my listeners. Harrison Butker, for those of you who don't know, Kansas City Chiefs kicker. He went and did a commencement speech at a Catholic university. And in his commencement address, he was talking about how his wife loves being a wife and mother. And her statement was she became alive when she became a wife and mother. He was just saying to the graduates, kind of encouraging them to be wives and mothers. I didn't see anything wrong with that. Since when is being a wife and mother a bad thing? He wasn't telling them not to finish their studies. He wasn't telling them to not be in the workforce, contrary to what the persecutors were saying. But what's interesting is when this first came out, I kept listening to it and I thought that was the commencement speech. Well, no, the commencement speech is quite long. It's like 20 minutes. This portion was like a 2-minute thing. Okay. So they're beating him up about a 2-minute part of this beautiful commencement speech. So I'm going to encourage my listeners to go Google his commencement speech and listen to it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's clear. It's precise. It's got truth and clarity, everything in it. So go listen because it's amazing. And he shouldn't be attacked for that. And so when he got attacked, instead of him falling for it and doing an apology, like a lot of people do when they get attacked by the persecutors, he did another speech another day, and he just
kept going.
He just said that he actually got support for freedom of religion. Even people that didn't believe in what he was saying, they said, okay, well, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. He said what he had to say, and they kind of, stuck up for him for that. And then he just said that he was talking with truth and charity, and he said God would handle the rest.
Right.
So he wasn't backing down. But he also wasn't like going after people, and he wasn't like doing an eye for an eye. He wasn't doing any of that. The other one that's really been in the news, and I love it, is Joe Mazzulla, who's the Boston Celtics coach, and they just, of course, won the championship. So if you Google his press conferences, they're hilarious. They'll ask him a question. He has this very deadpan answer, and that's it. He's not negotiating with them. He's not going toe to toe. He's just answering his question. It's very comical. So check that out. And then there's been this a little bit, which I know you don't care about, but it's been an interesting thing, is there's this, she's a model, and she's been former, I believe, Miss USA, maybe Miss Universe, Olivia Culpo, and she just got married, and she got married to like a sports star, and she's a very fashion girl, and she wore a very, very modest wedding gown. Okay. And so she got a lot of backlash for it because she was interviewed by Vogue magazine. Okay. So she wasn't just making this statement to the world. She made it because she was asked specifically about her dress.
Okay.
Because it was quite unusual in this day and age. And her comment was she didn't want it to exude sex in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
She wanted it to be very respectful for her husband and respectful because they were getting married in a church ceremony and she wanted to be respectful of her faith.
Okay.
Okay. She got completely pulverized for it.
All right.
Okay. So the people that were coming after her were saying, oh, well, you want everybody to be, a prude like you, and you're making women feel like they're prostitutes because that's not at all what she was doing. Not at all. Nowhere in her statement was she talking about that. Okay. So she just stood firm. She didn't say anything. She responded back, I'll pray for you. What you're writing is evil, because I'm not attacking anybody. I'm saying why I chose my wedding gown, and I was asked about it.
Wow, people really get
yeah. They
involved.
just like I say, it's like food being dropped in the water and a fish frenzy,
right? Okay,
or a shark frenzy.
Yeah,
this is what I'm saying. Like they're going by their faith, or if anybody says anything about Jesus, like, oh, he's crazy. Oh, he's this. It's that. It's like, why do you have to be crazy to follow Christ? I think you're crazy if you don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is why this is kind of coming up to me, because I feel like if people are getting persecuted for something and they're wanting to go toe to toe about it, then I guess that's one thing. Yeah. But just because you want to have your morals and your ethics and your, your faith and your belief system.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me, because then the persecutors, we'll call them.
Yeah.
The persecutors want to dress any way they want. They want to say whatever they want.
Yeah.
They're enforcing and inflicting things on people that people don't want. And the second you say you don't want it, you're a Nazi.
Right.
So I'm really proud of these people. I'm looking at them as really good inspirations. I'm inspired by them, and I'm also always inspired by Mother Teresa,
right,
and her peaceful attitudes.
Yeah, I do think, what I said before, how do Catholics handle, I said, quietly. I think that, like you said, it's okay, but I also think that if you are being persecuted in some way and in a heated situation, if possible, if you can get that person to just have a simple conversation, I do think that there is a place for apologetics to come in so that you can reason with these people.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the best only response is to be quiet and start praying. I think that if you can, because we care for their souls, right? Just like Christ did.
Right.
So if you can get to the point of a conversation, that's what should happen.
Right.
If you can.
Yeah, if it can be a reasonable conversation, I agree with you. To be educated about why we have these beliefs and what the reasoning is behind them. And you can have, again, you don't have to sit and go back and forth and back and forth. You just don't. You could have an educated conversation if the other person is willing to do that. But if they're just screaming at you, they don't want to hear.
Right.
They don't have any interest in knowing why you are against abortion or why you have, these belief systems. They don't care. They don't want to care. They just want to be mad, and they just want to spit on you.
Right.
So, I mean, I agree with you, but, the more educated you can be, the more you can learn about why we believe what we believe. Why do we have this reasoning? It's honestly, when you do learn about these subjects that are such hot button topics, they make perfect sense if you can stop and listen and breathe and listen. You could learn some things.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, the persecutors have it completely wrong. They don't understand. They don't want to understand. And that's what makes me sad. They think that we are closed-minded, but we're really not. But we do come at things from love and life. Love and life.
Yeah, I agree.
Love, life, and peace, I would say, are the three big words. Anyway, I just don't want people to give up hope when they're being persecuted, because it is wildly crazy out there right now. Everything's so divided. It's very hot out there. But let's all try to just envision Jesus, envision Mother Teresa. Let's try to be educated. Let's try to be peaceful. Let's pray, pray, pray. And I hope you're not being persecuted out there. If you are, let me know. I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
No, I pray for all my listeners because I know how it is out there. And I do see a shift. I don't know if you all are seeing a shift, but I'm seeing a shift that when people are being more firm in their answers without snapping back, they're firm in their answer, it does kind of snuff it out, you know? Because I think sometimes when somebody knows you want to roll around in the mud with them, they'll keep going. But if you're just simply not engaging with it, they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will turn to the Lord and they will have more peace in their life.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you for coming today, Simon.
You're welcome.
We made it through.
Me too.
Edit it beautifully, please. Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. Now go out and be a bright light in someone's life. And remember, be focused, be faithful, and be fresh.
Fresh Catholic is produced, edited, and recorded in Ventura, California.